Welcome back to Siesta with Suki. Thank you, as always, for joining me. Today, I have a special guest. So he's special because he's special, but he's special to our family in particular because he is one of the first people that we met when we moved to Oaxaca. And he's given me all kinds of nice little tidbits of information. Now, you know, every episode we learn a new word, and I'm sure he's going to teach us some new words. But I am going to tell you about the word that he finally shared with us. So I'm here for 6 months, 8 months, and people are yelling aguas at me. So the first 6 months, I hear it and I'm thinking people want to sell me water. And so I definitely responded, no, thank you. And I'm sure people were like, okay, this is a weird one. So at some point I realized they're yelling aguas, but I'm still not sure what this means. So I finally asked Cesar, what is aguas? And he's like, it means be careful. Now, you know me in languages. I'm like, well, it means waters. So how does this get to be careful? But he explains it to me. So he mentions that there was a time, way, long time ago, not now, don't worry, where people would throw the urine out the window and they would yell, aguas, be careful, water's coming out. And the tradition kind of came along. And I love that because one thing Cesar has always done is, first of all, he has the information. There's very little that I can ask him. And if he doesn't know, he's got a theory. So we have had some seriously philosophical conversations driving down to Puerto, back when it was like a 6-hour road. So you can imagine our conversations. And it's just been really good talking to him because every single time, when I tell you I learned something new, I'm talking about I learned something that I didn't even know existed, like in my world. So my worldview legitimately opens up. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen. Our worldview is about to expand. So without further ado, Cesar, thank you.
Thank you so much, Suki. That was a great introduction.
Oh, thank you. Well, we will salute to that.
For sure.
And
okay.
then we'll give, there's not even enough time for you guys. We only have about an hour, but we're going to give you all we can in this hour. So Cesar, talk to me. We are just two old friends, legitimately, sitting at the table.
Yeah, I know.
So it's been a couple of years, though. Has it been that long? Maybe a year or so.
I think a year ago since the last time that we met.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me a lot of things, but we're gonna take it back to the beginning.
Yeah.
And I know you, right? So I'm gonna get through this fast because I know him. So we're gonna start with English first. One thing I always like to talk to you guys about is and try to show you a little bit that the personality of the person is actually what informs and is the foundation of like their life, right? So one of the first things I remember asking Cesar is, how'd you learn English? And the reason I was asking him was I was thinking to myself, well, if I can learn Spanish the way he learned English, maybe I have a chance. I have no chance because you're going to tell us how you learned English.
Yeah, well, this is something that it kind of came to me naturally. When I was a kid, I started listening to alternative rock from the 90s.
Okay.
Groups like Rage Against the Machine and things like that. And what happened was that I just started singing because I like the music and the way it sounds. So without thinking on the words, I just repeat what I was hearing from the records that I was playing. And later my mom asked me, okay, but do you know what it means? Or how do you know what you're saying? And that's when you had to, back in the day, you had to get a booklet to get the lyrics of the song, and then with a dictionary you translate them. And then it was just an exercise in my brain to how to discover the message that it was inside of the lyrics. And that's how I just practiced little by little. And at some point I was able to get another job or things like that just because I was able to speak English. And I think I have like not a lot of accents, I think. I don't know.
The accent is fantastic. And I'll tell you why this is not going to work for me. So one of my favorite songs is bachata. And I sing along every word, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. I know a little bit of it, There's a part he talks about your boyfriend is my boyfriend, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know the stuff that's not good, but I'm starting my lessons today. So.
I like to suggest to people whenever you hear some kind of music, like for example reggaeton, you unlearn Spanish. So just keep that in mind because honestly, it is really, really bad when everything is there. But I heard that you can hear some videos that you know in English, but you know them in English, but in Spanish, and then your brain can get the context of the information that is there. So it's easier for you to learn.
Star Trek. I do this with Star Trek.
Exactly,
Star Trek Voyager.
Like that, yeah.
Yes, I will listen to Captain Janeway in Spanish because I have watched those episodes 50 million times, and that is so apropos to what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes,
anyway.
exactly.
So
Well, little by little, yeah.
Little by little, okay. So, so we're going to take people through your history a little bit.
Okay.
Where were you born? Where are you? 5 years old. Where are you?
Well, I was born in Mexico City, in Iztapalapa. For those who like Ángeles Azules, that's also part of the lyrics that they have from one of their songs, that they always say, like, desde Iztapalapa para el mundo, like from Iztapalapa to the world. Okay. I'm basically part of that.
So that means
that's
short version is he's cool. Okay, we got it. Those are cool folks.
That's kind of where my origins. That's in the hood in Mexico City, where people were just fighting to survive in a way, you know, like.
Okay, can I stop for 2 seconds? Because I am so impressed with the in the hood that just happened right now. Like that was actually quite impressive. So this learning Spanish with the music thing, I don't know, it's making sense to me. Okay, so go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, my childhood was really cool because in the place that I grew up, we learned how to be a community, how to help each other, how to make friends with the kids from the neighborhood, and how you appreciate loyalty more than other things. So that's where some of the good things that I got from the barrio, or from my place where I was born. Because later in life, when you leave and then move to other places, you realize that it's not the same outside, you know, like it's not the same trust, or like the way that you can rely on people, because you don't have that connection. But later in life, I also was able to learn that it just depends on how you react with people and how you treat them. And you can make a really good connection, like what would happen with you and Evan and the family, you know, like I just tried to be the way I am, and you appreciate it, and we had a really good time. And that kind of brought us here, basically.
Yes,
you know?
yes. And it's interesting you say that, because I talk to people, obviously, of different cultures, and then I talk to people who are here. And obviously, within Mexico, there are lots of different cultures. Yeah. And even Mexico City by itself has a lot of different cultures inside of Mexico City. Yes. So everybody's not having the same experience, 22 million people. Mm-hmm. Right?
And precisely in the city, Mexico City, it's so big and it's so crowded that you can see many tribes, let's say, or many urban groups that you can see there, and then you learn to communicate with each one of them, because each one is different. I mean, the way that I see it, I was kind of like a bridge always. My mom was an indigenous, my dad was an Spaniard, but from the family, like the backgrounds, let's say, and I was a mix, you know, like I have part of both, and somehow I was able to have a broader image of how things happen from a Spaniard family and from an indigenous one, how the traditions were more strong in one, and how people behave, let's say, in different circles in society. So that's part of the experience that I gained in the city in Mexico.
Okay, so how long you were in the city up until when?
I think it was until I was like 33.
Oh, so you spent quite some time in
the
city.
Yeah.
Okay, so before you came to Oaxaca, what were you doing?
I was working in information technology world, let's say. Okay. That's also something that is kind of related to my experience. My parents were always going to church, or they had the belief on church and all of those stuffs. And for me, it never makes sense. For me, it was more like I will focus my attention in technology, because that is more what it was trendy, let's say. Okay. So I went into the world of information technology because I was able to speak English, and for me, it was an easier way to get more money. You know, like you get better jobs. Yes. While you're in. I mean, because I was able to speak English. I learned since I was like 14 or something. So when I was 18 and I looked for a job, it was easier for me to kind of use these skills to improve my situation. Okay. And that opened like a really huge doors for me to experience different things outside of the hood, you know, like in a different perspective than my friends.
Okay, so talk to me about this, because I want to make sure I understand. So you are, and we're gonna go, and so he's using the word hood, so I'm just using it because he's using it. Okay. Yeah. Because I don't know what the right word is.
That's kind of how I see it.
That's okay. Okay, it's fine. Do you feel like the people who grew up there have the same opportunity you did, or it was just kind of just very much your personality? Because it's basically what it sounds like you're saying is you got out of the hood.
Yes.
Okay. Did you get out of the hood because of you?
The way I see it, yes, because I mean, my experience, my friends and my group of people kind of forced me to look for other alternatives or other ways of entertaining. I think it was the music, because also something that I had the opportunity while I was in the city, it's going to a lot of concerts. I love live music, and that's something that helped me to connect with people from other circles, other parts of the city. And that's also something that it helped me to realize that no matter from where you're from, I mean, if you're a good human, you can have a good connection with everybody, you know? So I really appreciate that part. And that's how I little by little was able to, because I listened to different music than the majority of my friends.
What did they listen to?
Cumbias, salsas, and then like, I mean, nothing against that, but I was not into that beat at that time.
Yes.
Now I really enjoy it and dance, whatever, but back then for me it was not attractive. So I was always like...
An outlier.
Yes, exactly. The outcast, let's say, because, and that's also the problem. It was like a gift and a curse, the fact that I was able to speak English. And this is because, for example, it's an example, well, it's something that happened to me, that it kind of marked my life, that I was watching South Park. And I mean, it was really cool, funny and whatever,
Yeah.
but none of my friends were able to understand the jokes. And then I was kind of isolated because I couldn't speak with anybody about those things. I mean, it took a while until they get subtitles and translated and whatever.
Yes.
And then it became popular. So for me, it was like, I already told you that it was fun, you know, but I always suffer from that. Like, I heard things before happen, and I try to tell that about people, and because they haven't seen that, they don't believe in it. Or, you know, like,
Yes.
that's kind of how it happens.
Okay. So you feel like you were an outlier from the beginning.
Yeah.
But you were okay.
Yeah,
Kind
I
of being
mean,
an
you
outlier.
kind of get used to it at some point, because I mean, also I'm taller than the average, and this is because of my mother's side, and that is not common in Mexico City.
Which side is your mother's side? The indigenous
The
side?
indigenous side.
Okay, so the indigenous side was taller. Okay.
And the thing, like, because of that, I was also outcast from the regular soccer games or something. I mean, you know, like,
really?
I was
I would
away.
have thought that being tall is good for soccer, no?
Not always. I mean,
Oh, no?
I was not forced more to go to the basketball. You know,
Oh,
like,
yes, I can imagine, yes.
so those things happen in my life, but you cannot get used to it. Because the way I see it, I was always looking for alternatives.
Okay.
If something is closed, then I look for another alternative, workarounds. So then for that, in that way, my life, it's more fun, let's say, or I focus more in the options, not just in the obstacles.
Okay. So what happens with the friends? Because now you've moved on, moved out.
Yeah.
Do you still have some of the same friends? Or?
Well, they're still there. That's the thing. Like, most of them just got like jobs in places who they knew somebody or they built something together, but they are still there. And that is something, I mean, they're also doing their own projects and whatever, but they keep meeting every weekend to get some beers and talk about the memories, you know?
Yes.
So it's cool, you know?
Okay. So you do that with them still?
Sometimes when I go to see my mom and they're there, I have the chance to drink a beer. And it's nice, no, to see, I mean, they see that I'm the one that went away or like left, but is still coming back, and I'm good friends with them. So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't, obviously I don't know anything about this area. So is it like dangerous for you to go back or?
No. I mean, and that's also something that I learned, you know. The hood in Mexico, and I think in many places around the world, as long as you know the right person, you will be safe. So nothing will happen if you know people that are from there. And I think it's just unsafe if you are flashing money or acting in a improper way. You know, like if you use common sense, in my opinion, you will be fine anywhere in the country. You know.
Okay. Okay. So this is why Cesar is going on adventures with us, because he never seems to ask. He doesn't say, "We just go." Now I understand why we're just going.
Communication is a good thing.
Yes,
you know, that you can at least negotiate with
yes,
them
so
sometimes.
we're apparently always ready to negotiate our
Yeah.
way out of whatever we might find ourselves. So this is a good thing. So, okay, so at some point you decide that that Mexico City is not the place for you anymore.
Yeah, it was then when I kind of realized that the whole city was too crowded. No matter where you wanted to go, it was taking you 2 hours, even if you were driving or public transportation. So for me, that also made me, like, I had the time while I was driving in the traffic to think what I wanted to do, you know?
Okay.
So it was like, okay, this is nice. I have a good job. I have a safe income. And I can do this for the rest of my life. I started looking for apartments or places to buy something for my own. But it was too expensive. You always need to get a loan from a bank. And then I was forced to be there for at least 13 to 15 years, depending on the credit that you get to get a house, no?
Yes.
So those things were kind of like in my head thinking like, hey, is this worth it? Is this what I want to do for the rest of my life? And that's also when I realized, or like kind of questioned myself if that was the life that I wanted. Because in a lot of ways, when you're in the corporate world, you meet people that are really superficial and they are just materialists. And they just think about money and how they can get away more money, and they don't care if they have to hurt somebody or stuff like that. So for me, that was against my values, let's say.
Okay, your principles.
Exactly, my principles.
Okay.
So I tried to look for an alternative, tried to do something outside of the box without being part of that kind of life. So that's when I came to Oaxaca as a tourist once to meet artisans, and that's when I kind of learned that I could use my skills that I got from the city, a little bit about building webpage and like the negotiations skills that you get also from there, and I could use them to help artisans in Oaxaca to promote their craft and have a bigger exposure. That's kind of how everything started, like when I fed up from the city and I started looking for other options or alternatives.
Okay. So you come to Oaxaca, and this is obviously another culture.
Yeah.
And I've talked to different people who come from other parts of Mexico to Oaxaca. Do you feel like you've been accepted here?
Yeah.
Totally?
Yeah, I think that's also the good thing, like the way that I can interact with locals, because I'm not an asshole, you know, I'm not trying to take advantage of anybody. In general, you know, like that's the main filter, you know.
Yes.
But I like to make friends and interact with people in a way that it's also, I appreciate their energy and the time that they invest with me, you know. So all of those things help me to kind of learn more about the culture. And that's when a lot of things change in my head, because then you realize that you don't know anything about life, about a different way of living. And that's what I discovered by the people that I met here in Oaxaca, you know,
Okay.
by meeting them or talking with them, talking about their legends or their cultures and their traditions. And that's when you realize how important community is to kind of survive anywhere you want.
Okay. So talk to me about that. So give me one thing that, I mean, I'm sure there's a million things. When you say you didn't know anything about life, what's the one thing that made you feel like that?
A great example that I have, and I always like to talk about this with the people that I met, is like 2006, the teacher protests in Oaxaca.
Yeah.
There's a great documentary that I don't know if I recommend that. It's called Cuando el mal gobierno ataca al pueblo, and it is giving you a version or the side of the story from the teachers.
Okay.
And for example, while I was in the city, I only believe on the news, and they were saying that the
When you say the city, Mexico City.
Mexico
Okay.
City. When I was in Mexico City, I listened to the news and I believed what they were saying, and the teachers were anarchists. So it was a threat for the community and stuff like that. And you get that idea in your head, and when you arrive and then you see the truth from an independent film that is explaining the pain and how community is in Oaxaca, you kind of realize that you were lied, you know, the people were just not honest in the media, and you know that's when you start seeing other version of life, and then you kind of appreciate more what they did, because it was meaningful for the whole city, the protests, and why they had a lot of support from everybody.
Okay, well, tell us why, because, you know, I'm always asking people. So dígame, tell me.
Why they were...
Yes.
On the film, that's actually what they show, that, for example...
We're going to watch the film anyway, Cesar. You could give us,
But yeah.
you could give it to us. We'll take it.
The idea is that at some point, a group of mother, as an example, they gathered to go to one of the TV stations here to have a different version of the story on the news.
Okay.
Because they were trying to defend their kids. And the TV station reject them, and then they went away, they gathered more mothers, and then come back and took the TV station. And they were in control of that until the military force shoot to the antennas. So those things kind of help you to see how connected they are and how the community here is really strong, because they help each other. They don't see as someone is above others. There's more like everybody thrives, you know, everybody help each other.
Okay. Do you think you feel like that because you're not a foreigner. I mean, I'm more foreigner than you, obviously. But, because I think sometimes people accuse foreigners and people who come to Oaxaca, not having lived here, of romanticizing Oaxaca a little bit.
Well, yeah.
And so do you feel like you're romanticizing?
No, I think I'm trying to bring a different version. That's also let's say, my background from Mexico City helped me to look for other things that could be more relevant for tourists or the history of Oaxaca. And this is also something that I think is really important to consider. There are two versions of Mexico. One that it was after the conquer, after the revolution, after the Spaniards took over, and the other one that it's for the indigenous tribe, the people who were here before, their tradition, their knowledge, and all of the stuff that they were trying to preserve, but they were eliminated or destroyed or erased or hidden by the masses. So I think it is important to consider that there is another story before the nice city or the city center. Everything that it's outside, it's more connected to the indigenous who were like praying to the gods. I don't know if you have heard at Zompa, for example.
Sí.
I met some guys there, and they were telling me the stories that they were forced to pray to a virgin by the Spaniards. And when they decided to kind of rebel, what they did, they draw the symbol of their previous god on the back of the virgin. So whenever they were forced to kneel and pray, they were sending their energy to the image that it was behind. You know that there's always a fight, a resistance to preserve their culture.
Yes. Well, there is a, it's still very verbal, right? Because I went to Tanitse last year. It was what a road, but we got there. We lived, so I'm here to tell you I went to Tanitse, and I was talking to one of the people in the town, and he took us down to the river. That was also quite interesting. So we were in the back of a pickup truck, standing up, holding onto the side, on the side of a mountain, with just you fall, you die. It was fascinating. I'm here, but we didn't die, but wow. So we go down, and he shows me all the different different herbs. And he tells me what they do, so I know what they do in Spanish, but the name of it is in Zapotec.
Yeah.
They're Zapotec. But the village is getting smaller and smaller. So the kids, and the reason I even know the village is because the teacher is my son's teacher. So she took us to her village. All the younger people are leaving, and he was like, he doesn't have someone that he is passing on that information to. And we were just on the side of the mountain, you know. And so one day in the 50 million things that I want to do with myself, I definitely want to go back and like chronicle with him what at least the pictures are and what the names of the things are that they do. Yeah. Because I do agree with you. I think one of the things that I've so appreciated about Oaxaca is the resistance. There's a natural resistance to change here. Yeah. That is kind of good because some of the change that happens in some of the world is so fast. And then where's the time to think?
And I think, for example, this is something that it has been in the country for many, many years. If you notice in Mexico, I mean, in the country itself, the bigger cities are the ones with the highest presence of the church. And they were always trying to get rid of the indigenous. So here, they couldn't kill them all. They learned to adapt, and they preserve their traditions. For example, in Tlacolula, you can still see ladies that are doing cleanings with herbs and stuff like that inside of the church, because they couldn't force them to just believe in the church and everything that they say, you know. So I try to kind of share information about it, because that's the way that we can kind of fight back and preserve part of this culture, you know, because there's nothing, just the stories or the things that we can just share with others.
Yes. I feel like we're turning into a Fight the Power show, because there's so many of the guests, like, we have to fight, you know, and there's nothing wrong with, you know, having the information, standing together and holding on to what you believe in. So what we're going to do is we're going to end this segment, because when we come back, we are going to talk, because I see my energy stuff. Okay, so the wild, you know how they talk about, you know, you get on a roller coaster. So this first part was kind of like that first part.
Yeah, getting into it.
Yeah. So part two, and as a matter of fact, we started going up a little bit. So part two. So just imagine we're on the roller coaster and we have inched our way to the top. So I'm going to leave you at the top of the roller coaster, okay? Because part two, I'm going to take you right down, and we're going to like twist and turn. So get ready, get some, we're going to salute one more time.
Okay. Salud.
Salud. With a kiss, don't forget.
Hang in there.
And then we're going to go down, twist and turns. I'm not even going to tell you what we're going to talk about, because you wouldn't believe me anyway. So I'm just going to invite you to go to part two. So thank you so much for joining me on this part one, and I will see you on the other side. Ciao.